Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
All right, welcome everybody. I want to call the Washington County Planning Commission meeting to order. It's August 1st, 6 o'clock. Madam Secretary, may we have a roll call, please?
Linda Kennedy. Francine Donchik.
Present.
Michael Flick. Daniel Lazareski.
Present.
Kate Nelson.
Here.
Rob Pierce.
Here.
Patricia Phillips.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ethics law announcement. Please.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioners are reminded that if with respect to any matter or any person coming before the commission today, number one, you've received a gift or loan. Number two, you have a pecuniary interest. Number three, you have a commitment in a private capacity, such as a family, employment, business, or similar relationship. Or number four, if you've provided representation or counseling before an agency to a person or entity for compensation within the last year on a matter being considered here today, please remember to disclose that gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation at the time the matter is being considered. And furthermore, please remember you must abstain from deliberation or voting on the matter if it's clear that the gift, loan, interest, commitment, or prior representation would materially affect the independence of judgment of a reasonable person. Commissioners are also reminded that under the Planning Commission rules, if you've had any contact outside this meeting with any persons interested in a matter coming before the Commission today, you should disclose the nature of that contact at this meeting. I'm also going to read some instructions for providing public comment via Zoom and via telephone. There's some new requirements that we actually verbally read the instructions for anyone who may be watching or listening. So to participate via Zoom, those of you who are interested in doing so can log into the Zoom webinar at the link that's found on page 1 of today's agenda, or you can join by typing zoom.us into your computer browser, clicking Join a Meeting on the Zoom website, and entering the meeting ID 842-7265-9406. Alternatively, you can join this meeting by telephone only by dialing 1-669-900-9128 and entering the meeting ID, which is still 842-7265-9406, and pressing pound. I also am going to read some instructions for public comment today. Members of the public can submit public comment by either attending the meeting in person, attending the meeting via teleconference, or attending by telephone only. To provide public comment via Zoom, log into the Zoom webinar at the link on the first page of the agenda, and you can utilize the raise hand feature during any public comment period. To provide public comment via telephone only, you can press star 9 to raise hand and star 6 to mute unmute. So those are the instructions for public comment today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appeal procedure, Mr. Lloyd.
Yep. Thank you. Most decisions rendered by the Planning Commission are appealable to the Board of County Commissioners. If you disagree with the decision of the Planning Commission and qualify as an aggrieved person or party, you may appeal in writing within 10 calendar days from the date that the decision being appealed is reduced to writing, filed with the Secretary of the Planning Commission, and mailed to the original applicant in the proceeding being appealed in accordance with Washoe County Code. Please call the planning staff immediately at 328-6100 for information on the appeal procedure and the application fee.
All right, next we're going to open up public comment. This public comment will be open to any item on or off the agenda. If you have a specific item, I would recommend that you hold it for the specific item that's coming up. Madam Secretary, or, sorry, Mr. Secretary, do we have any public comment?
Sir, you'll have to fill out a public comment form, please. I have Gary Schmidt. Gary, go ahead, state your first and last name for the record.
We on? Yeah. Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Gary Schmidt. I'm a half-century resident of northern Nevada, the vast majority of which has been in Washoe County. I'm a longtime property owner in Washoe County, over half a century. I'm going to give you a little bit of my general background. I have a degree in economics from the San Jose State University. I own rental properties, agricultural properties, and commercial properties in 4 states, including recreational vehicle parks, duplexes, single-family homes, and other properties, ag properties in Texas, in California, and Nevada. And I also own a mobile home park. I've been in the rental business for over half a century. I served 4 years on the Washoe County Board of Equalization. I served 4 years on the California Pistachio Commission. I have the oldest pistachio orchard in Merced County in California, which I planted in 1968 when I was just a puppy. I'm giving you some background. I'm going to address you later on the Gerlach application, but I wanted to get some general background out of the way now. And in addition, I've lectured numerous times, including before many legal counsels and the other organizations on the open meeting law and the public records law. You currently have a violation of the open meeting law in this meeting because I requested a copy earlier today multiple times of the full agenda item, which I think is 10A on the Gerlach matter, including exhibits. I've been here over an hour. It has not been provided me. The open meeting law states that it is to be provided upon request. I've numerous times advised the county that they should keep 1 or 2 extra copies on site because it's a little onerous to someone to show up and request a copy. The county commission has continued a meeting more than once previously when they didn't have copies available on request, while the county manager, at the time it was Katie Singleb, went upstairs and made the copies in order to avoid the meeting being suspect for being a violation of the open meeting law. So I'm going to request that you continue that item because you are currently in violation of the open meeting law. Additionally, I have robbed the item out of your desk copybook for that item, and it doesn't include any of the exhibits. So that's in violation of the open meeting law also. You have some exhibits before you. They may have come in late, earlier today, most of them before noon. They should have been in that book. I should have had a hard copy. But anything you do tonight on that particular item, other than send it back, is going to be subject to being set aside for an open meeting law violation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Thank you. Yes. Next, we have Brad Befford. If you could please state your first and last name for the record.
Hello, members of the commission. Good evening. My name is Brian Befford, and I am Washoe County's Sustainability Manager. I am not here to speak on any specific agenda item, just simply to introduce myself. I have been tasked to lead the conversations to help the county achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions, both for county operations and countywide by 2050. And it's going to be an interesting journey getting there, and I look forward to working with you to do that. I'm just here to introduce myself. I have cards. If you folks are interested, you could also ask any staff. They can track me down. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I might have.
Thank you so much. I have no further public comment in chambers, and we have no hands raised via Zoom.
All right, thank you. All right, next agenda item is approval of the August 1st, 2023 agenda.
Commissioner Doncic, motion to approve.
I have a second.
Commissioner Nelson will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item is approval of the July 5th, 2023 draft minutes.
Commissioner Lazarewski, motion to approve as written.
Commissioner Doncic, I second.
We have first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion
Commissioner
passes.
Nelson abstains.
Oh, sorry. Okay, one abstain. All right, next one is Mission Washoe 2040 Master Plan.
Excuse me.
Can we turn up his microphone, please?
Is it on now?
Now it's on.
Maybe I
Thank you.
didn't.
Perfect.
I'm Eric Young from the Washoe County Planning Program. We're always excited to come here and talk about the Envision 40 project that we have. But tonight is a little bit more exciting because it's the beginning of our first public release. So, like we mentioned last time when we were here, we wanted to bring to you tonight a presentation very similar to what the Technical Advisory Committee, the Citizens Advisory Committee, and the Steering Committee are going to see later this week. We provided you earlier with a copy of the draft that is very similar to, it's exactly the same as the copy that they got on the same platform that they got it. The only difference is you were not able to interact on your platform and provide comments and read each other's comments. And that's for obvious reasons, open meeting rule. We can't really have you quite deliberating on the plan yet, but it gives you a sense of what they're looking at. We will meet with them later this week, but we wanted to throw you in, so to speak, to the mix of their comments, to hear any comments that you may have tonight, anything that you might want to tell us was a concern when you're reading through it. Let us know of any kind of particular changes you might be interested in before we go to full public release. Because what this week of interaction with you and our advisory committees is all about is to meet with those boards and go over the public draft one last time and get all of your input, make those changes, and then have a draft for the public to start reviewing and commenting on, interacting online, for us to take out in an extensive public engagement plan that Megan's going to talk to you here in a minute about. We believe that will be available at the end of next week. I believe the 11th is the target date that we have for opening that up. And that would be after we finish meeting with you and the advisory commissions, take your input, make those changes, get that ready to go, and then we'll be able to release that to the public. But tonight we wanted to come to you and show you what those advisory committees are going to see, and then see if you have anything, tweaks, changes, scary things you saw. Oh my gosh, I didn't know you were doing that. Any input you have at all tonight, and to give you a little bit of an update on exactly where we are with the public engagement and what's going on with the process. So normally when we come and talk to you with our consultant team, it's the consultant named Melissa. You're becoming familiar with Melissa. She's been here before you a few times. She really does a good job for us. She'll be with the advisory committees later this week, but tonight we have Megan Moore for you. Also on the consultant team, actually the lead of the consultant team, and she's here to give the presentation tonight. Brandon, I don't know if you've elevated Megan. Oh, he's a little busy. Oh, she's available. Perfect. So we're ready to go. Looks like she may be sharing her screen. She's going to need to share her screen here in just a moment. And we'll go through her presentation, and then any input you have, any questions you have for me or for Megan, we'll be here until you're satisfied to move on. So here we go.
Megan, just go ahead and unmute and state your first and last name for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Megan Moore. I'm with Logan Simpson, based out of Fort Collins, Colorado. And we have just a really short kind of overview presentation tonight, a little bit about the schedule update, what you can expect to see over the upcoming months, highlights of the plan structure, and some of the public outreach and upcoming events you can expect to see through year end. A little bit about the schedule review, what we've been trying to finalize and finish up over the past spring and into summer here. We've worked a lot on some of the future land use refinements, especially in regards to some of the area plans. And we've been working to finalize the overall draft plan, which you have available to take a look at. But we've also been looking at proposed land use code amendments and trying to pull those out. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but pull those out of the master plan as it is right now and set them up for being integrated into the code. This week, like Eric said, we have a series of community advisory committee, technical advisory committee, and steering committee meetings. Just get their final edits and revisions to the draft plan before it goes public. And it's like Eric said, we're anticipating to get the plan out online next week, the end of next week, August 11th. Following that, we'll do some public workshops. In August and September, you'll see a long list at the end of this presentation regarding those. Try to take all those public comment, revise the plans in late September, and be ready for adoption hearings come October, November, and December. A little bit about public outreach. This has been a project that's spanned a couple of years, but you'll notice all these different dots in the graphic here represent different steering committee meetings in the red, planning commission updates to you all in the light green, in-person meetings with advisory committee, public, virtual meetings, et cetera, in the black. So you've seen a lot of things happening throughout the process, a lot of feedback loops. We've had 2 online questionnaires. This will be the 3rd in regard to the draft, 4th in regard to the draft plan. I guess we've already had a questionnaire on it. So a lot of public input to date. And again, the next couple of months, we'll kind of continue that as we do a lot more public workshops and outreach. In regard to the plan structure itself, you can kind of see the chapter structure here, but one of the main goals from the old plan to this new plan was really to condense, to align with the regional plan, condense, and then compile and integrate the area plans. You can see kind of this tiering here. So the top level there in the dark blue is the regional plan and elements of the regional plan. The lighter blue are the Nevada state statute requirements for what belongs in a master plan. We've kind of merged those together to set the structure for the overall draft plan document, which is the yellow boxes at the bottom. So it hits everything from population and housing, natural and cultural resources, to land use, transportation, and public facilities. Again, because some of the changes that we've tried to implement throughout the update process has been to reshuffle some of those elements just to tier from the regional plan like we just talked about. All of those elements have been combined into chapter 2 of the master plan. There's been a lot of revision to the vision, the goals, policies, and actions. And then a lot of the kind of the time and effort involved in this update has been in taking a lot of the detailed standards that sit in the master plan right now and pulling those out so that they can go where they should go, which is in your development code. And the area plans themselves, they're not going away. I know that we've had this conversation a lot of times throughout the process, but they have been pulled back. Again, it's been taking a lot of those detailed standards out. We'll kind of have those ready to move into the development code, but it's been highlighting the key aspects of each of those area plans and then being able to integrate them in a more succinct and obvious way in the new draft document in chapter 2. So as we kind of open up the document and go through the plan, chapter 1 really focuses on some of that background information. how it connects to other plans, how it tiers from the regional plan, the overall process and engagement structure, what we heard from folks, as well as the area plans, the overall description, the history of how they were developed, how they affected growth and development as well. Chapter 2 really digs in. It's a lot of the policy guidances within Chapter 2. So for each element, you've got the list of elements here. There's goals, objectives, policies, and this is also, so this is the principles and policies. Every element has a little bit about existing conditions, as well as a little bit about relevant plans and the principles and policies that set the stage. This is also where the character areas sit now. So the character areas, there's a little bit of description, a little bit of imagery about each area, kind of what makes them a little bit different, some development opportunities and constraints, an overall vision for that area, which is kind of tiered from the refined character statement, and principles and policies, priority policy level statements, tiered from the elements above that we just talked about, but specific to those areas. And then the last thing that'll be included is, and these are works in progress still at the moment, are the existing master plans with existing roads and trails. And so the maps are continuously being updated. And then the last chapter for implementation really gets into kind of the work plan for staff and leadership of the county over the next 10, 20 years. So they've been organized, the principles and policies in Chapter 2, it's setting the stage for the actions. The actions are organized by type. As you can see kind of in the columns to the right of the screen there, they have listed their associated principles and policies, the responsibility, so who's taking the lead on each of those actions, whether that be county staff or some partner agencies, and anticipated funding sources. So who's available, what money is available out there to help fund these. All are also organized by time frame. So some of those action items that are still continuing, still ongoing, to very long-term action items, which might take the lifespan of the plan to even get started, even get going. And they're organized by type. So you have some development code revisions, of which we've already kind of gotten started on by kind of condensing the plan and pulling some of those detailed development regs out. Capital projects, so major infrastructure investments, some additional plans, studies, and policies that might be needed, and then programs and resources. And with that, so over the next couple months, I promised you a very long list at the end of this of outreach options. I won't go through each of these. I think the key point of these is from next week through September, you'll see a lot of different events for the draft plan to be out there to get folks input. You'll notice a lot of dates throughout August, and then into September, kind of the first 2-3 weeks of September, continue to do that feedback and outreach, at which point we'll take the draft plan, make revisions needed, and get the updated plan in the queue for planning commission meetings, hearings, and next the Board of County Commissioners. And with that, I was told we should be short. So with that, I think Eric and I are ready to take questions.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Commissioner Phillips, question. Is there any way we could have a copy of all those dates?
Mr. Chair, yes. We are working this week to finalize our outreach materials, which will be going out on the email lists, all the email lists the county has. So one of those is a pretty nicely done flyer sheet that includes all of those, that entire list for the all-county virtual meeting, and includes the Zoom link on it. So everything will be there, and we'll send that to you. I think we're finalizing that today. It should be ready to send out tomorrow. So we'll send you all of our outreach materials so you can see what everybody's getting. But in addition to that list of outreach engagements, these flyers will be in libraries and they'll be at trailheads and at a few parks. And once again, you remember that when we were doing the surveys, we sort of experimented with using a QR code, and it worked pretty well. And so we're using a QR code again, and that QR code will show up on most of our noticing, and that QR code will take you straight to that Conveo online platform where you can leave your comments right on the plan. You can say, I like this, I don't like it. You can change language, you can propose new language. It's very interactive. And so a lot of our public outreach over the next month and week or so, 5 weeks or so, will be to drive people to that platform and to get them to actually engage with the plan itself. And then at our in-person engagements, we'll be able to not only show people how to do that, but to go through the plan and to show them things about their particular community or things that, whatever is their particular interest. It might be trails or whatever it is, we'll be able to show it to them in there. So that's what these engagements are about. We are going to do 2 more Spanish language outreach events. We did one earlier that was somewhat successful. We were asked to do a couple more. We're looking forward to those. So there's one this Saturday at Tegley Paradise Park, and then we're doing another one on the 28th at Golden Valley Regional Park, North Valley Regional Park. And then there are a couple of interesting ideas we have for planner at the library, planner at the park, to just be there. We have noticed that special purpose meetings where we say, hey, come to our special meeting to talk about the master plan, we're not getting a lot of input on that. So we try and show up where people already are, like at a park or at a library or at an event. The Bluegrass Festival at Bowers Mansion, the Sierra Arts Foundation has some events at Bartley Ranch, the Lazy Five Music Series up in Spanish Springs. Those are very successful events that will draw in a lot of people, and we'll have a table there. And we're finding that that's a much better way to reach people than to have a special purpose event that says, hey, show up at this time to talk about the master plan, right? So we're letting people know where we're going to be. Hopefully we will draw in extra people there, but we're hoping to meet the people that are just going to be at the park or the library anyway. So that's part of our plan going forward. We think that by the time we see you on October 16th for a public hearing, we will have had some pretty robust public feedback, been able to adjust the plan accordingly to that feedback, and bring you something that really represents what the community has asked for. And the community means the people who live out there, the people who use the plan. The community means that full, broad circle of everybody that has to interact with this plan. So we're listening to all of them. We're working on a plan that tries to show that we listen to them, and that's what we intend to bring to you on the 16th. Now, we're all required to have what's called a neighborhood meeting now for master plan updates. That will be in the lobby out here just prior to your September Planning Commission meeting. We're working with our Deputy DA now, with Jen now, on what kind of special advertising or noticing, what kind of language that might be. As soon as we hear from her about what kind of special requirements we might need on that kind of noticing and that kind of outreach, we'll get started on that right away. But otherwise, I believe that the outreach will be those notices that we're developing now with all of the dates that will go out to everybody, and hope to get that package of outreach material to you this week. So if you have any input or questions on the plan itself, we'd love to hear it. Otherwise, thanks for having us here.
You said that you were getting ready to send out some information to everybody. Is that going to be by mail? Is it email? Or how is that going to be sent out to everybody?
We will use the email lists managed by the manager's office. They have dozens of them. I think we went through and chose a handful of them that seemed to match the CAB lists, the BCC district lists, and there's general county. People can sign up for just send me any information about the county. But there are about 7 email lists that we'll use. Then there is, the county is now using Facebook, so it will be on Facebook. We're going to each of the cabs. That isn't on that list, but we are going to each of the cabs, even though it's not on that list. And so we're working through the manager's office to use whatever techniques they have to send it out. We'd be happy to put something on the TV out here in the lobby, to do a little video that goes out. We're working with the county communications team to do the broadest outreach that we can come up with. If you have something that you think really works and you'd like us to focus on, we'd love to hear that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything? Nothing? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Eric.
Thank you
guys.
very much. Thank you, Megan. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 9, planning items. I'm assuming that's Mr. Lloyd?
Yes, sir. This is the Regional Planning Commission alternate list for review and possible action to recommend to the Board of County Commissioners that they set the order of the alternates selected to represent Washoe County Planning Commission on the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission in the event the regular appointed Planning Commission members are unavailable to serve. The existing Washoe County Planning Commissioners serve on the Regional Planning Commission are Kate Nelson, Francine Donchik, and Pat Phillips. The currently proposed order of alternates is as follows. The first alternate would be Michael Flick, second alternate Daniel Lazarecki, third alternate Rob Pierce, and fourth alternate Linda Kennedy. Once reviewed and recommendation is made to direct the Planning Commission Secretary to transmit the ordered list of recommended alternates to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners for its decision. After the board's decision, the Planning Commission Secretary shall transmit the ordered list to the Executive Director of the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on that? Nothing? Everybody good? We need to do a motion, right? Yes. Okay, can I get a motion?
Commissioner Lazareski, I move to recommend the order of alternates to the Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Commission as follows. The first alternate, Michael Flick, then Daniel Lazareski, Rob Pierce, and Linda Kennedy. I further move to direct the Planning Commission Secretary to transmit the recommended list of alternates to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners for its approval.
Commissioner Donchik, I second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to number 10. That's the Boulder Bay Building A Granite Place. Do we have any disclosures on this before we get going?
Chair Pierce. I am the engineering manager for the Incline Village General Improvement District, and for the last 2.5 years, I've worked with the developer, their engineers and planners on this project, in approving and reviewing their water and sewer infrastructure plans. So I feel it would be best if I recuse myself on this item.
Okay. We'll give her a couple
All right,
minutes.
so Ms. Nelson, yes, she'll exit, and then when this item is over, someone please remember to retrieve her and bring her back into the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, I'll read the description. This is an amendment of conditions, case number WAC 23-0009, the Boulder Bay Building A Granite Place for WTM 16004 Boulder Bay for for hearing, discussion, and possible action to approve an amendment of conditions for tentative subdivision case number TM 16004 to reduce the amount of open space area associated with Building A to 1.25 acres and to transfer open space acreage to the adjacent Boulder Bay Resort project. Representing Washoe County in this matter is Senior Planner Chris Bronzik.
All right, Chris, thank you. You're up.
Thank you. Good evening. So we are looking at WAC 23-0009. This is the amendment of conditions for TM 16-4 Boulder Bay. So as mentioned, this is a request amendment of conditions for the original tentative map to reduce the amount of open space associated with Building A from 2.53 acres down to 1.25 acres. The result is to effectively reduce and relocate this common open space area. This project is specific with the Granite Place condominiums. This is located off of State Route 28. It is located in the Crystal Bay area, and it is adjacent to what you may know as the Biltmore Casino area. So there's some background associated with this that I wanted to cover. In 2007, this demonstration project program by TRPA started. It was to basically facilitate or modify code requirements from TRPA above and beyond what is normally allowed. As a result of that project, the Boulder Bay redevelopment project was selected. And so the project was approved in 2007 by TRPA. It does consist of the hotel, the resort, the casino, employee housing, retail, health, and wellness. And so I wanted to cover this real quick before I go into the actual amendment of conditions, just so you understand the history that has gone into all the approvals associated with this resort project. So when this request originally came in 2016, it was intended to be phase one of the Boulder Bay, at the time, the Boulder Bay Resort redevelopment project. And so it was a tentative subdivision map for 18-unit common open space condominium development. As part of this submittal, there was a special use permit request associated with grading. That special use permit request is not a part of this amendment of conditions. This was approved by the Washoe County Planning Commission on July 5th of 2016. The final map was recorded on October 5th, 2018. So this approval, it went through the whole process. It has been finalized. The entire project has been constructed out, and the final condominium was sold in February of 2021. So as mentioned, basically on the approved tentative map, there was 2.53 acres that were approved by the Washoe County Planning Commission as deemed as common open space or common area associated with the map. The intent of this amendment of conditions is to reduce that common area from 2.53 acres to 1.25 acres and to transfer the remaining acreage to the adjacent Waldorf Astoria Lake Tahoe project, formerly known as Boulder Bay. So, additional history. In 2016, when this came through, there were images and site plans that were approved already by TRPA that showed this parcel having buildings encroached onto them. As we can see here, with the yellow box representing the subject parcel and the blue circles representing structures that were encroaching on this parcel. Similarly, in April of this year, the project went back to TRPA for additional review. TRPA approved it once again, and the project this time around also contained amended site plans, which again showed building elements. Once again, the yellow representing the parcel and the blue representing the buildings encroaching. Lastly, as part of this overall development, CC&Rs were required as part of the common open space development, the tentative subdivision map. These CCRs were recorded on October 5th, 2018. And again, this division what is taking place today, this amendment of conditions with the reduction of acreage, was reflected in the CC&Rs, as you can see on the next slide. So the reason I bring up all these is because the project as a whole, it's always been part of an overall resort redevelopment project dating back to 2007. And so even though this map has been finalized, the Washoe County Planning Commission was the body that made the ultimate decision on this map. So that's why we're back here today requesting this amendment. So one thing that was interesting is the applicants did hold a neighborhood meeting. Typically, amendment of conditions don't require a neighborhood meeting. However, due to the scope of this project, the applicants were asked to host one, and the applicants did. On May 25th, 2023, they did hold it at the Granite Place condominiums. It took place at 5:30, and we did have staff present at that meeting. So property owners were noticed within 750 feet of the project site. 105 total parcels were noticed. Various agencies did review this amendment of conditions and provided comments. Staff was able to make all the required findings as outlined within the staff report. Staff is recommending approval with conditions. I do want to note that all the initial conditions, all the original conditions from the original tentative map are still required to be followed. Above is a possible motion. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions for? Go ahead.
Commissioner Lazareski, Chris, do you know of a reason that the boundary line adjustment wasn't addressed during the tentative and final map process?
So I don't know the answer to that. I do know that the applicants are going to be submitting the boundary line adjustment in the near future. The applicant is present, and I think he'd be better to answer that question.
If the applicant could.
Tom Jacobson. I represent EKN Development Group. We're the developer of the Waldorf Astoria Lake Tahoe. We're also the owners of the parcels adjacent to this, and also Big Water Development is the entity that's required to do this subdivision and transfer the land to us. So what the answer is, the question is, why wasn't the BLA done there? I don't know, I wasn't there, but I can assure you our application for submittal for the boundary line adjustment is subject to this approval today, and we're ready and prepared to make that application as soon as we have this. Based off of planning's recommendation, we may wait until after the 10-day to August 10th, right, Chris? Is that when the period is?
I believe it would be, August 10th.
Right around there. So as soon as this is done, we're prepared and ready to do the boundary line adjustment.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chris. I think you make a convincing case that this was what was always envisioned for the property, and it's unfortunate for everyone that that wasn't documented correctly in the original applications. You noted that there was a public meeting. I didn't see in here anywhere. Did any of the neighbors have comments one way or another on this?
There were some comments associated with the neighborhood meeting. Some of it was related to adjacent parking situation, which wasn't really relevant to the amendment of conditions. Some of it was related to naming the roadway that is proposed for behind the condominiums. Again, not really relevant for this request. That's why I didn't make those notations in the slide.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Anybody else have any questions for Chris? No? Okay, if it's all right. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Commissioner Flick. So in reality, we're talking about 0.18 acres of open space being lost. Maybe something more.
About 1.25 acres.
Well, you started out with 1.253 acres of open space, and you're reducing it down to 1.25? Is that correct?
No, they started with 2.53 acres, and they're dropping it. They're requesting to reduce it to 1.25 acres.
Okay. Hopefully there won't be any more problems with the open space in this, if this is approved, on the building of the other structures.
Based off of this request, I don't anticipate it.
Does anybody else have any more questions for? No? Okay, if it's all right, I'd like to go to public comment, and then we'll get the applicant up. So,
I recommend you do the applicant first and then public comment.
okay, all right. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Mr. Chair and Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to be here today and to answer any questions. We feel that planning, and specifically senior planning, Chris here did a great job in presenting it in the staff report. I don't have any other comments. I think it's pretty clear where we're at. I'm happy to answer any questions if the commissioners would like to dive into anything more, but if not, we don't have a presentation to give.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for him? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary or Mr. Secretary, do we have any public comment?
I have no public comment in chambers for this item, and I have no public comment on Zoom.
Okay. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Do we have any discussion on the matter? No? Okay. Entertain a motion if you're ready.
Commissioner Donchek, I motion that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission approve amendment of conditions case number WAC 23-0009 for Big Water Investments LLC, with the conditions included as Exhibit A to this matter, having made all 10 findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code 110.608.25.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Motion passes. Okay. Can somebody get Kate, please?
No. Finish myself.
Welcome back. Okay. We're going to move on to Master Plan Amendment Case WMPA 23-004. Mr. Lloyd, you want to announce it?
All right, this is Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 23004, and Regulatory Zone Amendment, case number WRZA 230005, for the Diablo Drive and Main Street MPA RSCA. This is for hearing, discussion, and possible action to, 1, approve an amendment to the High Desert Area Plan, a component of the Washoe County Master Plan, to change the Master Plan land use designation for a 17.99 acre parcel from suburban residential to 4 acres of commercial, 2 acres of industrial, and 11.99 acres of suburban residential. And two, subject to the final approval of the associated master plan amendment by the Board of County Commissioners and a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by regional planning authorities, recommend adoption of an amendment to the High Desert Regulatory Zone map to change the regulatory zone for 17.99 acres for an acre parcel from medium density suburban to 4 acres of neighborhood commercial, 2 acres of industrial, and 11.99 acres of high-density suburban. And 3, if approved, authorize the chair to sign the resolution to this effect. So representing Washoe County in this matter is Planner Julie Olander.
Do we have any disclosures before Julie goes up? No? Okay, Julie, thank you.
Good evening, Julie Olander, for the record of Planning and Building. So this is a master plan amendment and a zone change for a 17.9 acre parcel, and I sort of decided to show it in more of a diagram. So you can see on the left is what the existing master plan is, which is suburban, and it should be suburban residential. It got cut off there. And they're proposing to change 11.99 acres to the SR, which is suburban residential, 4 acres to commercial, and 2 acres to industrial. And then I gave the percentage of that almost 18-acre parcel, what those percentages are. And then if you go moving on over to the next table, it shows that the 17.99 acre parcel is zoned medium densities suburban, which is 3 units per acre. And they're proposing to change 11 of those, or almost 12 of those acres to high density suburban, which would allow 7 units per acre, 4 acres to neighborhood commercial, and then 2 acres to industrial. So this just sort of lays it out with the percentages of what that acreage is, and then also how many acres is proposed to be changed. So this parcel is located in Gerlach. You can see sort of a larger version of the location on the left, and then a more close-in version on the right. And it is totally undeveloped, as you can see. This parcel is owned by the Gerlach General Improvement District, and they've had numerous meetings trying to discuss what they want to do with this property, and they have come up with these proposed master plan and regulatory zone changes to primarily provide more housing and to provide some commercial and industrial uses for the area. The community has spoken out against the lack of housing options in the area, and that requires workers to live elsewhere. And the character statement in the High Desert Area Plan states, opportunities are needed for young people who like to live and work in Gerlach areas after graduation. So these are some of the thoughts that are behind this proposal before you tonight. And again, well, here we can see the master plan currently. And on your left, it's sort of hard to see, but just pointing out the parcel is all sort of that pinkish color. And then what's on the right has added the little bit of gray up in the corner, which is industrial, and then the neighborhood commercial down in the corner on the left. And this is another view of it. This is the zoning. So again, you see the bright pink there, or the pink color is all one. It's all MDS, and then the proposal is that corner is going to go industrial, and then high density in the orange, and then neighborhood commercial in the bright pink. And then I provided another view of it just so you all can see it very clearly, because it's a little hard to discern what is going on in this one parcel. And I also highlighted what's going on around the parcel. So you can see across the street, it's PSP, which is public, semi-public facilities. You have some MDS south of the property. And then to the west, you have GR, and that's part of the Gerlach's Hot Spring Park. So you have GR there, you have PR for Parks and Rec, and you even have a little piece of TC, which is tourist commercial. And then to the north, there is a section that is industrial, and another section that's larger, that's GR. And I just want to point out that the Gerlach Suburban Character Management Area does allow these proposed regulatory zones, the HDS, the NC, and the I. And I wanted to provide some information on the proposed housing that's going to be allowed. Currently, MDS allows 3 units per acre, so that's would be 54 units on the 18-acre site. However, with the high-density proposal, you'll get 7 units per acre. So that increases, that allows up to, with a 12-acre, and I rounded up, so just so it isn't that 17.99 acre parcel. So the high density, we approximately 12 acres. That will allow 84 units. Neighborhood commercial allows 5 units per acre, which is 20 units. So you're going to increase from 54 units to a possible 104. The industrial does not allow any units. According to the GGID out there, there are public utilities in Diablo Drive right away, and then they're also looking at extending the infrastructure as needed. And I'll quote the portion that the applicant provided. It says, "It is anticipated that the existing infrastructure will be able to accommodate the anticipated demand for the future utility service, water and sewer, and is not anticipated that existing utilities will require new improvements." That is the understanding that the GI provided for us. And then, as we all know, as development occurs, they're going to have to make sure that those utilities are in place before any proposal can occur. The fire is provided there by the Gerlach Volunteer Ambulance and Fire Department, and it's just 330 feet away on Cottonwood Street. And then the Washoe County Sheriff Department also has an office there about 1,000 feet away on Sunset Boulevard. The traffic will increase, and this is sort of a breakdown that the applicant provided that I thought was helpful. The top shows in sort of that sort of light pink color what the existing amount of traffic is, and then the sort of the purplish blue is what's going to be proposed. So at the bottom you can see the total existing, which is 66 average daily trips, and then the estimated trips is 64, and then the proposed is with the new this proposal will be 717 estimated peak daily trips, and then 136 estimated peak hour trips. So the change is 651 average weekday trips and 72 peak hour trips. So there is going to be increased traffic as this occurs out there. I just wanted to point out these changes conditions out there. So I have stated several times that the community is interested in having some changes occur. And the key thing is to provide more housing and to provide more commercial and industrial opportunities. And these also are outlined in the High Desert Area Plan. So the High Desert Area Plan also supports these proposed changes. The ultimate outcome is that the community believes by having more housing opportunities, more commercial and industrial space, that this will attract more businesses to the community. The applicant has held 4 community meetings, and then they did have their required neighborhood meeting, which was held on April 13th at the Gerlach Community Center, and there were 18 attendees to that. And the concerns, the comments were concerns about the industrial uses, a desire to provide more affordable housing, allow more zoning flexibility, and then concerns about the utilities. Properties within 750 feet were noticed, 127 notices went out. A legal ad was placed in the Reno Gazette Journal on June 23rd. Various departments and agencies have provided comments, and those are in Exhibit D of your staff report. Staff can make all the findings as explained in the staff report, and there are possible motions in your staff report. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and the applicant is here to provide a presentation if you would like that. Thank you so much.
Sorry about that.
Can I ask a question?
Do we have any questions for Julie?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What was the source of the utility information?
This is Julie Olander for the record. It was provided in the application, and that was so that was what they provided.
But where did it come from?
I can ask the applicant. He's available here. He's here, and they can provide more information on that.
We have any more questions for Ms. Olander? No? Does the applicant have a presentation?
Yes,
he'd
he
like to
does.
present? Please state your name. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Eric Hasty. I'm with Wood Rogers, and I'm representing the applicant, Gerlach General Improvement District. Julie did a really good job presenting the application and the request that we have for you today. So I'll try not to be redundant and just kind of fill in a little bit more background of how we got here and the process that we went through. Okay, so this gives you a little bit better idea of the site. So this is kind of located within all the resources that are in the town of Gerlach. There is the fire station. You have the K-12 school. There's 2 points of access along Diablo Drive and then on Main Street. And it's almost surrounded by development. So the water and utilities, the GGID, the Gerlach General Improvement District, they do provide the water and sewer for this area. And so they already put in a bunch of utilities within Diablo Drive in order to anticipate for development of this site. So just pointing out, we already kind of went over the existing master plan and the existing zoning, but just wanted to show that, again, highlighting the surrounding master plan and zoning designations within the town of Gerlach is very similar to what we proposed. So again, we're asking for a master plan amendment and a zone change, rounding up on these 18 acres. We're only asking to change 4 acres of commercial and 2 acres of industrial for the master plan. The rest will stay suburban residential. The zone change will propose a change to the whole entire property, which includes almost 12 acres of high-density suburban, 4 acres of neighborhood commercial, and 2 acres of industrial. So like Julie said, we had extensive public comment and input into this process prior to submitting. And so this started in February, and we were brought on and we went to the GGID meeting, the board meeting, and the board really told us what they were looking for. And this was a big reflection of what we saw in the area plan, which was that they have a hard time with finding new employees to come up there, especially for school and stuff like that. There's a lack of housing. And so they were looking for housing of all types and varieties, not just single family detached housing, but also apartments, townhomes, other things like that, so that people can also rent, and they have the ability to rent and also to own a home.
Did you give him the public comment?
On the April 13th meeting, this is when we had our neighborhood meeting where we invited the public, and this was prior to submitting again. We had a big turnout. There might have been 18 signatures, but there was probably 40 or 50 people that came, and for the town that was quite a bit. So we had a lot of public comment, public feedback from that. We did have several alternatives that we presented there, and we got their comments on each one of those. And then we presented those findings, the comments as well from that meeting to the board prior to submitting. And so we did have comments that addressed the amount of industrial that we were proposing, as well as the different types of houses. Excuse me. And so we were able to shrink some of that down. So when we originally had 4 acres of the industrial, we shrunk that down to 2 acres based on a lot of the public comments and on the board. So the board really drove the application and what you have in front of you today. You can go ahead and change it. It's not, I don't think my. Oh. Maybe it is. Okay, so again, just reflecting what was in the High Desert Area Master Plan. Again, Julie kind of alluded to some of these quotes, but these quotes have been in the High Desert Area Plan since 2010, and they're still being reflected through the GGID board. And so there is a need for housing, there is a need for other services in this area, and so this is an attempt to start that process. These can be served by utilities that are within Diablo Drive, and these are also in conformance with the surrounding and existing land uses. You can see we had the commercial being closer to the main street because this is what is seen all along in the main street in Gerlach, and as well as the industrial. The reason why we pushed the industrial up into that area is because the GR zoning designation in this area allows a lot more than just housing. There's a lot more non-residential that is allowed. So that hot springs that is located right there is adjacent to where we have the industrial located. The high density suburban zoning designation, that really gives us a lot of flexibility in the future to provide different types of housing. So not only, you can see that the HDS, which is shown in orange here, you can see the existing parcels to the south where you have different size lots. Just because HDS means that you can have 7 dwelling units per acre doesn't mean that's exactly what you're going to do, but it gives you the flexibility in the future to provide different types of lots for different affordability ranges. And so that was our thinking there. And the reason why we had so much neighborhood commercial was because neighborhood commercial was the only zoning designation that would allow multifamily. And so that's any type of apartments or anything like that, we had to have neighborhood commercial. So the thought is to have a portion of this neighborhood commercial provide multifamily for this area in the future. So again, we arrived at this conclusion based on a lot of feedback. We had 4 public meetings prior to this. The board was really the decision maker of this, and they were driving the discussion and was voted on prior to ever coming to this conclusion of what we're proposing today. So the existing, again, I went over the existing industrial that we're proposing here is located up by the GR zoning designation because the GR zoning designation allows a lot more than just housing in this area. And we did reduce that from 4 acres down to 2 acres. But this industrial is really important to the community because there was a lot of community members who were saying that they would like some type of auto or auto repair. The industrial zoning is the only one that really allows that, as well as light hand manufacturing. So there's a lot of handmade tools or custom manufacturing, I believe is what the term is in code, that would allow makers space in this industrial zoning. And so that was kind of the idea behind that. So then just looking at the master plan, this does address a lot of the goals and policies that were outlined in the High Desert Area Plan. We had extensive public outreach. I don't know if I can say that enough. It's in conformance with the surrounding properties, and it meets all of the findings that are required in order for this to go through. And it's also been supported by county staff and the reviewing agencies. So that's my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any other questions you guys may have. So thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for him? Go ahead.
Excuse me, I have a question. At our last meeting, this was on the agenda, and thank you. This is on the agenda, and you requested it to be pulled back because you wanted to relook at it. But I can't see where. Can you tell us what changes were made? Because when you pulled it back to bring it back to us this time?
Yeah, so any decision we make needs to be made by the GGID board prior to us coming here, and so we needed to understand what they wanted to do if something happened at that meeting, and we never had that meeting, so we didn't change anything between now and then.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for him? No?
Commissioner Lazareski, do you know, is there anyone from GGID able to speak to GGID process, or are you able to speak to it at all?
There's a member of the GGID board, I believe, in here, but I don't know if they would like to speak about that. Or there could be people on Zoom too, I'm not sure.
Russell Byerly, for the record. I'm the Gurlot Public Works Supervisor. I can answer any technical questions. We do have a number of board members who are attending via Zoom, and they might be able to answer command level questions.
Just a technical process question then. It's been brought up that people are concerned about resource adequacy to serve. Obviously, you guys are the applicant, but you're also the agency that provides those resources. This is not.
Get closer to
Since this is not the specific application for any development, this is just a change to master plan and zoning. When the applications for development come in, are you guys going to have an obligation to serve whatever's proposed? Do you guys get to say yes or no to any given proposal that comes down from, say, a subsequent landowner once the zoning is in place?
Well, I would say yes, that we would have to handle that on a case-by-case basis, as various uses will have various needs. We are a very small town, only about 125 people, and we have quite limited resources as far as water and wastewater treatment capacity. We are close to the limit of the water and wastewater treatment capacity that we have now, but we're taking bids to increase both of those at the moment. This project, I think, is not going to have anything that would be up for review as far as its needs before we have those capacities increased.
So
does that make sense?
If I could sum up, just because something exists with a zoning right to build at a certain density and it's within your service area, you guys aren't required to provide service, to provide all of your available extra water or something for whatever proposal comes first. Do you guys have discretion as to what you approve?
I believe they have some discretion, but for the most part, we're absolutely not required to provide resources that we don't have. If we don't have the water, that project's not going to happen.
All right, thank you, and thanks for coming up.
You had a question?
He answered it.
He answered it, okay. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Okay, we'll move on to public comment now. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, in chambers first I have Christopher Swanson. If you could please state your first and last name for the record.
Hello, everyone. Christopher. Whoa, it's loud. Hi, Chris Swanson. Gary Schmidt brought this to my attention, and initially I thought it was kind of a nothing burger, and then he's like a fungus. He grew on me, and I got thinking about it, and it comes down to this. What if Double Diamond was a proposal by Tumwa? That's really what we're talking about. Why is a utility commission? Why is a GID in land development? Maybe there's a great reason, I don't know, but I can't think of one. Their job should be to sell off the land. If they need to find housing, if there really is a big public need for this, great. Then why not find someone who's a land developer to develop it, and then they find the water to service it? And I appreciate his honesty. If they don't have the water, then why are we doing this? That doesn't really make sense either. Maybe there is a bigger plan in the works, and Burning Man's Burning Man, and that's going to be a big business out there as they do everything that they're doing, and that's probably where this is going. But again, it doesn't change the fact that this is water and sewer public entity getting into the land development business. And I don't know that that makes sense. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Gary Schmidt. If you could please state your first and last name for the record. Yes, I have that ready. Mm-hmm. Yep, if you go up there, I'll put it up there. Yep, I know it's right here.
For the record, Gary Schmidt, there's a lot to unpack here. They don't have the water. 4 years ago, the GGID was before the county and changed the zoning on this very parcel from general rural, which allowed 1 residence, to medium density suburban, which allowed 57 residences. They still have that zoning. They parceled it. They sold off 3 1/3 acre lots. Only one's been built on. They've been hoarding the other 18 acres and keeping it off the market. And let me assure you, I've talked to you about my background. Providing more parcels does not alleviate any perceived housing shortage. You have to have somebody willing to build. And in Gerlach and in in Reno and all of Washoe County and throughout the nation, in any growth area, the issue is construction costs. Now, there's a lot of people in Gerlach would like to see that there's a housing shortage, and they would like to solve it. Yeah, they would like to have a bunch of housing for $500 or $600 a month, livable units. It's not going to happen. I don't care if you put 1,000 parcels out there. The construction cost is going to drive the rents up into the $1,000 plus range on new construction. So it's not going to solve the problem. They have 54 lots zoned right now, which they came and got just 4 years ago. Get those on the market. They're 1/3 acre lots, and they're quite appropriate size-wise. As far as industrial, hopefully you have before you, but I've submitted, and others have submitted, petitions and letters of opposition to this, especially the industrial, that count over 20. That's 15% of the population of Gerlach has submitted some form of opposition to this, especially the industrial. Let me say that there's no opposition to that neighborhood commercial. There's opposition, strong opposition to the industrial, and there's opposition to increasing the zoning at this time. They already have 54 lots sitting there that they're not moving forward with. If they're not going to subdivide that, they should sell it on the open market so someone else can subdivide it. Let me just throw something else out that, this thing's not working, but just north of this parcel, I own 120 acres. I own 1/3 of the property in the Gerlach GID district. Willie Courtney owns 1/3 of it. The other 1/3 of it is the town and this property. And the GID definitely works on a first come, first served. And there's not enough water to service what the zoning is now, let alone any increase in zoning. Thank you.
Next, I have Pete Dronkers. If you could please state your first and last name for the record.
Name is Pete Dronkers, for the record. Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the master plan and regulatory zone amendments for the 18-acre parcel along Diablo Drive and Main Street in Gerlach. I'm the Community Relations and Permitting Specialist with the Burning Man Project. Burning Man Project appreciates the county's focus on Gerlach as an important region in northern Nevada, and we appreciate the county's efforts to develop this parcel in a way that contributes to economic development and community resilience in Gerlach. Burning Man Project supports the Gerlach General Improvement District's intention to develop the 18-acre property in a way that helps alleviate the housing shortage in town and creates opportunities for commercial businesses. The housing shortage and lack of a general store, for example, affect the entire community, including those employed by Burning Man Project. We welcome the opportunity to work alongside the GGID in Washoe County on a cooperative plan and support the information shared in Washoe County's 2018 Gerlach Economic Development Strategic Plan. Burning Man Project supports amending the High Desert Area Plan. We further support a considered phased approach to development of this parcel. We do feel strongly that housing should be the preliminary focus, with additional opportunity for commercial development, as indicated in comments from the community, as long as those commercial opportunities do not draw investment away from the existing Main Street properties. We do not support industrial zones within this parcel, especially on Main Street. To our understanding, there is not an indication that this type of zoning is needed. Burning Man project could be supportive of the idea that locals would have the first opportunity to acquire some number of properties for sale, as long as non-locals are also afforded the opportunity to purchase in the same phase. We believe it's important that the look and feel of Central Gerlach and current character should be retained as much as possible. The desert frontier character of Gerlach can be preserved while also addressing the housing crunch. In closing, we believed a phased and thoughtful approach that seeks and values input from all stakeholders is warranted. We understand that this is only the beginning of a much longer process, and we are committed to remaining at the table as the zoning amendments and subsequent development process unfolds. Thank you for your consideration.
I do have public comment on Zoom. Now, this is going to be the Gerlach Community Center, so multiple people will be using this. I have already explained to them they only get to speak once for 3 minutes each. They need to state their first and last name, but I'll go ahead so that we might have 4 or 5 people on this.
Okay, thank you.
So the first person at the Gerlach Community Center can go ahead and unmute and speak. Please state your first and last name for the record. Once again, only one person can speak for 3 minutes. You can only speak once, excuse me. So as many of you that want to speak can, you will just need to only be allowed to speak once for 3 minutes, okay? So go ahead and unmute. State your name, first and last name.
Okay, am I there now?
You're there.
Awesome, thank you. Elizabeth Gambrell from Gerlach. And I'd like to echo some of what Gary Schmidt said about opposing the industrial GGID, industrial zone and GGID service district. I'm not real happy about the high density suburban. I understand at 67% that we can and possibly will limit the amount of houses that are built. I believe that it should have been swapped with the medium density suburban of 22% so that we were less likely to get somebody in who wanted to develop an awful lot of houses in a small space. I want more housing options in my town, but not at a crowded level of medium density suburban or high density suburban fulfilled package. I like the 4 acres of neighborhood commercial, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. My other concern was that even though Parks and Recreation reviewed this on page 6, there are no open spaces or green spaces designated anywhere in there. During all of our community meetings, I was assured that we could do that later on, but I'm still concerned that I don't see any green dots on there. We have very few community spaces that are opened as green spaces in Gerlach already. I'm also very excited to go through this process. I know it's going to be a 4 or 5 year process, as everything in Gerlach is. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment at the community center?
There is. My name's Christy Evans. I'm a full-time resident of Gerlach, and I'm speaking to you today in support of approving this master plan amendment. As noted in the staff report, Gerlach has a serious lack of available housing and commercial properties. This is not an abstract problem. People who want to live and work here now cannot find housing, and businesses who want to support the community cannot find property to do so. The local school does not have enough housing for its staff. We just hired a new teacher who can't find a place to rent. One of our fire captains would love to live here full-time with his family, but can't find housing. Even the Washoe County Roads Department put a mobile unit on its lot in Gerlach because its employees need a place to live. Our Main Street, there are currently 9 commercial parcels owned by 4 different entities, all of which sit vacant and unused, and some have been this way for years. We have to look at new options, and that's what this master plan amendment represents. The Gerlach GID has been discussing how to best utilize the land it owns for over a year now at their monthly public meetings. I have attended all of them. It is unfortunate and disappointing that some of the property owners who oppose this amendment never attended any of those meetings to express their views or offer alternative ideas to solve our housing problems. The benefit of the Gerlach GID shepherding this parcel's development is clear. They are a public body, they are accountable to the residents, and they must take input from us throughout this process. This is the only way we will end up with a development that considers what is in the best interest of those who actually live and work here. This master plan amendment represents a step forward in this process. It's not the final product. It's not set in stone exactly how it's going to look. What it does is provide a very broad framework to move forward with. I understand there's fear about industrial junkyards and massive apartment blocks, and I share those same concerns. The Gerlach GID addressed these concerns at their June meeting, clarifying that there are numerous opportunities in the future to specify uses, to specify density, sizes, and for residents to continue to give feedback. I care about this town I call home, and what we need is a variety of housing types and commercial businesses for people who want to be part of this community year-round. So I ask you to please approve this amendment so that we can take the next steps in helping this community thrive. Any other comment? And there's no other comment in our building.
All right, thank you so much. That's the end of public comment.
That's all the public comment we have?
Correct.
Okay. I have been informed that there has anyways, Jen would like to make a comment. There's been a revelation.
Jennifer Gustafson for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Earlier during today's meeting, I was informed by Mr. Gary Schmidt that there may be a potential open meeting law violation. Specifically, he informed me that the paper copy of materials that we keep at the back of the room was missing the exhibits, which are part of supporting materials for the board. And I was eventually able to confirm that with staff that the exhibits were inadvertently left out at the paper copy. Just so you know, the open meeting law does require the public body to make at least one copy of the documents described in paragraphs A, B, and C available to the public at the meeting to which the documents pertain. And A, B, and C is an agenda, the proposed ordinance or regulation to be discussed at the public meeting, and any other supporting material provided to members of the public body for an item on the agenda. So while this is a little bit of a vague provision as to whether it truly requires a physical paper copy to be present at a meeting, that is historically how that phrase has been interpreted in the open meeting law. And one more factual thing to point out for the record, I did address that with staff, and there was the paper copy at the back of the room was supplemented at 6:57 tonight. So currently there is, I understand that there are all appropriate materials back at the back of the room, but prior to 6:57, when this agenda item began, those materials were not present at the back of the room. So it is my recommendation that the board consider that. I am fine if the board makes a decision to take no action today, given that there is a potential issue that we have with the open meeting law, and to continue this item to the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. I would be okay with that as applicant. Okay, if we continue this until next month or your next.
Yeah, we'd be okay with continuing this.
Okay. All right, board.
Do I need a motion?
We should listen to legal and we should continue. Go ahead.
I make a motion to, due to the open meeting law question, that we continue this until next month.
Okay, do I have a second?
Commissioner Phillips, provide a second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Sorry, we're going to continue it. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 7:36. Thank you. Okay, we're going to bring the meeting back to order.
Recording in progress.
7:36, we'll bring the meeting back to order. Next item is item C, Master Plan Amendment, case number WMPA 23-0006. Mr. Lloyd.
Yeah, this is for hearing, discussion, and possible action to, one, approve an amendment to the North Valleys Area Plan, a component of the Washoe County Master Plan, to redesignate 8.566 acres of a 19.926 acre parcel from rural to suburban residential. And two, recommend adoption of an amendment to the North Valleys Regulatory Zone map to redesignate 5 acres of a 19.926 acre parcel from medium-density suburban to high-density suburban, to redesignate 3.27 acres of the same parcel from medium-density suburban to open space, to redesignate 2.35 acres of the same parcel from general rural to medium-density suburban, to redesignate 5.59 acres of the same parcel from general rural to high-density suburban, and to redesignate 0.53 acres of the same parcel from general rural to open space. Approximately 3.18 acres of medium-density suburban will retain its current zoning. The regulatory zone amendment is subject to final approval by the Board of County Commissioners of the associated master plan amendment and a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the regional planning authorities. And 3, if approved, authorize the chair to sign the resolution to this effect. Now, representing Washoe County in this matter is Staff Planner Kat Oakley.
All right, Kat, you're up.
Hello, Kat Oakley, Washoe County Planning. As Mr. Lloyd stated, the item is the WMPA 23-0006, WRZA 23006, and it's a master plan and regulatory zone amendment for the Lerner Lemon project. So the first part of this request is to change the master plan designation of this property from what it is now, which is a mix of rural and suburban residential, to entirely suburban residential. That will require redesignating approximately 8.5 acres of that parcel. Second is a much more number-filled request to change the zoning. In summary, what that will do is change it from its current mix of medium-density suburban and general rural to a mix of high-density suburban, medium-density suburban, and open space. And I will break down the details of that a little bit later with pictures. So this project site is in Lemon Valley. You can see it's kind of nestled in the corner of the City of Reno's jurisdiction. So it's surrounded by City of Reno to the west and to the north, county to the east and to the south. Zooming in a little bit more, you can see directly south of Swan Lake, and it is currently undeveloped. This parcel is relatively flat. It's within the Lemon Valley Suburban Character Management Area, and it has current regulatory zones of 57% MDS and 43% general rural. The current master plan designations exactly mirror that, with 57% suburban residential and 43% rural. Here is the side-by-side of what exists now and what will exist if this request is approved. So again, about 8.5 acres there to the northern part of the site, from rural to suburban residential, the result being the entire parcel suburban residential, which you can see does match the county lands around there. And then second, to do the zoning. So this is what it will look like if this is approved, and it's broken down by what changes to what. And so there is some medium density suburban that is currently zoned that way, that will stay that way, and you can see that is the pink in the southern portion of the site. Outside of that, we've got 5 acres from medium density suburban to high density suburban, so that's going to be in the southern part, the pink to the orange. 3.27 acres MDS to open space, and that is going to be, again, in the southern portion of the site, that yellow, and you can see it runs along the existing county lands. Thank you very much. Then there is going to be 2.35 acres general rural to medium density suburban. That's the green to the pink northern part of the lot. 5.59 acres GR to high density suburban. That's the orange in the northern part. And then 0.53 acres GR to OS, that strip of open space buffer to the north. So it is quite complex when you break it down number by number, but the result will be 3.8 acres of open space, 5.53 acres of medium density suburban, and 10.59 acres of high density suburban. What does this look like in terms of the density of the overall lot? Right now, the overall density is 1.7 units per acre for a total of 34 possible dwelling units. If this is approved, that density would now be 4.5 units per acre, which is a total of 90 possible units across the lot. The high density suburban zoning, if we go back, is you can see that is located adjacent to the city of Reno there, and that portion of the city of Reno is zoned SF8, which is 8 units per acre. And then there's open space along the current medium density suburban or 3 unit per acre zoning in the county. And then there to the north is in the city of Reno, it is currently zoned open space. So you can kind of see the transition that this layout provides from what exists in the county towards the higher densities of the cities. And that zoning, again, in the cities already exists at 8 units per acre. So at a total of 4.5 units per acre for this site, that would kind of be in the middle of what exists now in the county and what exists in the city, and matches pretty well for the area. Now to address the floodplain. So the reason the northern portion of the lot was general rural in the first place has to do with previous floodplain mapping for this site. Now, since that was done, a letter of map revision for the floodplain was done that more accurately depicted where the flood elevation is. And so the floodplain now looks like what you're seeing here, which is a tiny corner in the northeast portion of the lot. As you can see, that corner will fall entirely within the open space zoning. And additionally, it's noted in the application, and I've confirmed with our engineering division, they're intending to pursue a letter of map revision to reflect a 0.4 foot or meter, I can't recall, change in the flood, the known flood elevation due to some drainage improvements. So eventually, it seems that won't be there at all. Right now, it's within the open space, so it couldn't be developed anyways. Next, I want to address some cultural resources. There was a comment received from the State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, indicating that there may be cultural resources on this property. The applicant did reach out to an archaeologist to confirm that the mapped cultural resources are actually north of the project site on federal land. That is pretty much to be expected because there'd be more likely to be mapping on federal land to begin with. So we know there are no mapped resources on this site. Of course, there could be, but any conditions addressing that can be applied at the time of future development. Excuse me. The tribal groups were contacted and provided no comments. And I'll just mention here, sorry. This request before you today is just for the zoning and the master plan, not for the map as it's shown in the application materials. That will come later. I don't know if I'm gonna make it through. Traffic. Here are some screenshots from their traffic impact study. You can see these intersections were identified with our county engineering division. You can see the traffic is expected to run along Fleetwood Drive. Those are the intersections they did some traffic counts at to get current level of services. That's over there on the left. In the middle is their projected background conditions for 2026, so what modeling shows the traffic will look like there. And then on the far right, what that looks like with the proposed development. You may be wondering why this study stops at Lemon Drive. It's because our engineering department determined that most impacts would be to local roads since it is a relatively small development in relation to that regional roadway. Of course, we know Lemon Drive does have high volumes due to the development in this area. So all roadways will meet a minimum level of service of C, which is what we require. RTC let us know that Lemon Drive will be widened north of Fleetwood from 2 lanes to 4 in 2025. So that's a positive development for that roadway. There's sewer capacity at the Reno Stead Wastewater Treatment Facility. They recently expanded from 2 million gallons a day to 4 million. Water service will be by TUNWA, and the applicant will have to acquire rights. And then all those agencies reviewed this and did not have any comments or concerns about availability of facilities. A neighborhood meeting was held on February 22nd, and 9 members of the public attended. There were questions regarding backyard access to existing houses. There's a current dirt roadway on this parcel that is utilized for that. Of course, that's not a public, legally established road. It's just something that's been utilized. So that came up. Traffic impacts, of course. And then the questions about the height of houses in a future subdivision, which again will come under review when that application moves forward. 191 property owners within 750 feet were noticed. And many agencies reviewed this, provided their comments, which can be found in Exhibit D. Staff can make all the findings, and that includes some specific findings in the North Valleys Area Plan, specifically NV 21.1, A through C, and NV 21.3, A through I. Those are addressed in the staff report, so I won't address them in detail now. But because those findings can be made, staff is recommending approval. There is a master plan motion for your consideration and a regulatory zone motion, and I am happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here and has a presentation.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Oakley? No? Okay. Is the applicant present, wanting to make a presentation?
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ken Crater with Crater Consulting Group, and I do have a presentation. This is just a photo looking from the southwest corner of the property, looking north across the parcel and up towards Lemon Lake or Swan Lake. Is it the arrow button? Yeah, the arrow to the right. Okay, there we go. The vicinity map, and as Kat pointed out, we're bordered by the city on 2 sides and the county on 2 sides. So it was really a matter of looking at all the different land use and zoning regulations to come up with what seemed to make the most sense for this property in terms of the highest and best use. This is the assessor's parcel map, and as pointed out in the staff report, the site has great proximity to the park in Lemon Valley and also the Lemon Valley Elementary School, essentially within walking distance. And again, Kat showed this exhibit, but just pointing out the land use of the adjoining parcel in the city of Reno has a land use designation of single-family residential neighborhood, which is compatible with the proposed uses. And as far as the zoning, again, the city of Reno, the 8 dwelling units per acre on that crosshatched parcel. This is a little better designation, just showing what's going on within the city of Reno and how it surrounds the site. You can see the open space to the north and the 8 dwelling units per acre to the west. There's some industrial nearby, and also further to the east to the right is additional single-family residential 8 dwelling units per acre. This is a topographic map, and as Kat pointed out, the site is very flat, almost level. There's only about a 1% grade across the entire site from the south end to the north. It does flow from south to north towards Lemon Lake. There are a few dirt roads that crisscross the parcel, and one of the concerns that we wanted to make sure that we addressed is when we went out to the site, we immediately noticed that a lot of the existing residents have gates out to the parcel, which they don't have any legal rights to access, but they've been there a long time, and we just need to respect that fact that now they'll be losing that access. So that was one of the things we looked at in terms of our overall site design. As Kat pointed out, again, the very far northeastern sliver falls within the FEMA flood zone A, but it was pointed out there was a conditional letter map revision already done by the county engineer and approved by FEMA to remove that designation. Now it's a matter of just submitting the letter of map revision now that the drainage improvements are done to officially take that out of the flood zone A in perpetuity. But as she also pointed out, one of the other things that's being done is, I believe it's called an administrative approval, but the contours that exist within FEMA are actually incorrect. And that pink line with the 4924 designation, that is actually the current FEMA flood zone elevation level, 4,924 feet above sea level. And you can see it's far away from the actual boundary of the property to the south. The flood elevation level is being raised by 0.7 feet, but even after adoption of the LOMAR, even as currently exists, this parcel will be far away from the existing flood zone. This is a little better depiction of what's proposed as far as the zoning. And again, we were looking to really buffer the existing homes in the county that have the medium density suburban designation by putting an open space buffer. That will give us room to put our infiltration basin, walking paths, trees, and also we're going to be sensitive to the fact that some of the neighbors have great vistas looking towards the mountains to the west. So we're also going to look at tree selections that we don't put giant big canopy trees in there, but just smaller trees like redbuds and the like that don't grow nearly as tall, still provide the color and the flowering, things like that. The medium density suburban then transitions away, and a good portion of the site to the upper side, the left side, is medium density suburban, which abuts the open space within the city of Reno. And then the high density suburban basically only abuts the land within the city of Reno. And as you can see there, the maximum allowed units is 90. It says 90.7, but you round down. So 90 maximum units and 4.5 dwelling units per acre. And as Kat said, we have submitted a tentative map. It's not being processed right now, but I like to let folks know what our long-term plans are. So we submitted it just so it's part of the public record, and that way they have a better sense of what's going to happen in the long term. So assuming we get through this process with the master plan amendment, regulatory zone amendment, then we'll start the processing of the tentative map, but at least they have a sense of what we're planning and what it looks like. This shows a depiction of the actual tentative map a little bit better, and even though it's not under review tonight, we even looked at things like adding lots wide enough where you can build single family or single story homes on here instead of two-story, things like pocket parks. So this will all be part of the tentative map process. And again, all just trying to be sensitive to the surrounding development and the folks in the county, a lot of them, which I'm sure have lived here for many, many years. So this is kind of how I approach this process of entitlements. First of all, I did a very thorough land analysis. As pointed out, we looked at traffic, sewer, drainage, water. We submitted a discovery application to TUMWA to make sure that they can supply the necessary water for this project. We have a public acknowledgement letter from TUMWA stating that they will serve this project. And we just signed an annexation agreement with TUMWA, annexing this land into the Truckee Meadows Water Service Territory. So it now falls within the TUMWA service territory. And all the public services, access to schools, ambulance, police, sheriff. So all those boxes are checked. We look to see that, make sure that this falls within the Truckee Meadows service area on the regional plan, that there's no development constraints. There are none, so that box is checked. We then had a neighborhood meeting, and it was mentioned there was concerns with access to rear yards, the height of homes, traffic impacts, construction impacts. All those will be addressed with a tentative map with conditions of approval, but we wanted to start looking at them now because I think it's also important in terms of the land use and zoning that we provide good land use patterns and zoning patterns that can help address those issues. As far as the actual process, we're here tonight before the Planning Commission. We would then go on to the Board of County Commissioners and then on to regional planning for a conformance review. And it was pointed out in the staff report, the other thing that will go before the regional Planning Commission is a change from a Tier 3 land to a Tier 2 land. And I think this is very important. I just wanted to point out the differences. Tier 3 land is area that is generally on the periphery of the Truckee Meadows service area and contains low density development, is undeveloped, or contains significant development constraints. None of that is true here. There are no development constraints. We're in the middle of an existing built up area. Tier 2 land on the other side is described as area within the TMSA with generally less development occurring at suburban levels. Public facility and service provisions are currently in place or planned. So this land clearly fits within the Tier 2 land, and so the Tier 2 box is checked. Again, the next step would be the future tentative map for 87 residential dwelling units, which again has been submitted and is a matter of the public record. So in summary, the findings, we fully concur with the staff report. All findings for both the master plan amendment and regulatory tone amendment can absolutely be made. The requested zoning limit maximum density to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. I know past practice in the county has been to get it zoned to high density suburban, come in with the development agreement, but I thought I could use zoning here as a much better tool to limit development and provide those buffers up against the existing neighborhood by using that combination of open space, medium density, and high density suburban. And again, the specific project impacts will be addressed with the tentative map and appropriate conditions applied. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ken? No?
All right, thank you.
Do we have any public comment?
I have Gay Hollenberger in chambers. If you could please state your first and last name.
Gay Hollenberger, and I'm one of those tenants that Ken was talking about. And this is a picture of my house. Behind the house, I've cleared my fire break, and the width is 70 feet, the depth is 30 feet. The road, and then the sagebrush. So when I went to the February meeting, this is where I got the map, and I've got my place marked. And I talked to Ken and said, please don't build two-story houses behind me because I like the view I have of the mountains. And when I bought the place 18 years ago, I got the view. The warehouses across the way on Lear Boulevard are still low enough that I can see them. Four things really. And I've emailed Ken and he knows, some of my questions and concerns. Fence replacement. What he was talking about. I have 2 lab dogs that are huge and love to run. If they're going to replace fences, I need it done very quickly on my property because to kennel my dogs is very hard for long periods of time. So I didn't know how long they were going to take, if they were going to tear all the fences down and then build, because I've rebuilt my fence 2 or 3 times because the pine trees have been blown over by the wind. So I've concreted, put new fence posts in, and I know how to do all that, and it takes a little while. I read the application online. He kind of cleared some of that up with his speech. He was saying 50-foot trees, and I'm going, that's going to block my view. And he already knows I have concerns about 2-story houses behind my property. The flood retention, and I emailed him and he emailed me back. And I'm still concerned with it because this is one of the reservoirs out in Lemon. It's just past Military and the new 7-Eleven they put in. That water has been there for 3 to 4 months. And I know he's putting drains in and all of this. Some of the other flood retention basins have rocks and a dirt bottom. So I'm kind of still concerned about that because since Swan Lake got water, we have either the mayflies or the white flies that kill the property and my truck windshield, being so many of them. And my property value went up $20 for my property taxes. When all of this stuff is built, what's it gonna do to my property value and taxes? Because now I'm retired from the state of Nevada, but I'm on limited income, so ouch. And dealing with Ken, he and I have been very communicative, and he's been provided information, so I have no problem. I just had these questions, and I thought I'd come here and voice them. So nothing else. That's all I've got.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I did have Ken Crater fill out a general public comment, but you don't have to. Yep. Okay, no further public comments in chambers or via Zoom.
All right, thank you. We'll bring it back to the board. Does anybody have any discussion or anything? No?
I'd just like to say it's wonderful to hear a public member say that they're happy with the amount of outreach and communication from a development proposal. That's
rare.
It's a good example to set. Thank you, everyone.
All right, if there's no comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Commissioner Donchik. Sorry, I turned it off. Commissioner Donchik, I move that after giving consideration to the information contained in this, Jen, I'm going to do both of them at one time. Okay. I move that after giving consideration to the information contained in the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Washoe County Planning Commission adopt the resolution contained in Attachment A of this staff report to amend the master plan as set forth in the master plan amendment case number WMPA 23-000306, having made at least 3 of the 5 findings set forth in the Washoe County Code 110.820.15 parenthesis D parenthesis 1 dash parenthesis 5, the additional finding in section 110.820.15 parenthesis D parenthesis 6, and having made 3 findings in accordance with the North Valley's Area Plan Policy NV.21.1, I further move to certify the resolution and the proposed master plan amendment in WMPA 23-0006 as set forth in the staff report for submission to the Washoe County Planning Commission, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission.
Commissioner Johnchik, do you mean for submission to the Washoe County Board of County Commissioners?
I probably missaid. Yes, ma'am. Correct that to Washoe County Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you.
And authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Planning Commission. I further move that after giving reasoned consideration to the information contained on the staff report and information received during the public hearing, the Planning Commission adopt the resolution included as Exhibit B, recommending adoption of the regulatory zone amendment case number WRZA 23-0006, having made all of the following findings in accordance with the Washoe County Code Section 110.821.15 parentheses D, and having made all relevant findings of the North Area Plan Policy NV 21.3. I further move to certify the resolution and proposed regulatory zone amendment in WRZA 23.0006 as set forth in the staff report for submission to the Washoe County Board of Commissioners, and authorize the chair to sign the resolution on behalf of the Washoe County Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I have a second.
You have a second? Okay. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay, motion passes. That brings us to 11. Chair and commission items, future agenda items. Mr. Lloyd.
Nothing to report from the BCC.
Nothing. Okay. Do you have any requests for information from staff from any members? That would be the B. All right. So we'll move on to 12, director and legal counsel items. Do we have any reports?
Sorry, I jumped the gun. Nothing to report.
Nothing. Okay. Any legal? Anything from legal?
No legal updates from me today. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Do we have any public comment?
I have Gary Schmidt. If you could please state your first and last name for the record.
For the record, Gary Schmidt. Hopefully I won't take the full 3 minutes here. I want to thank the commission for continuing that item. I think you'll have a better package before you a month from now. There is a GGID meeting Thursday, first Thursday of the month. I was out of the state for 3 months, so I missed a lot of meetings, but I've attended meetings up there since I've been back. I was a former resident I've owned property there for over a quarter century. About 15 years ago, I resided there for 2 years. I still have a part-time residence there. But I'd like to point out a couple things for your consideration, and especially staff. The whole issue is water. Is there enough water or not? And do you allow zoning, just keep increasing zoning and capacity beyond the water that is there in front of you or that you could see in the distance? I would suggest staff require a water report. Find out what sort of gallonage there is, what sort of excess there is, and what sort of projections they have for the future. That's one point. I think you'll find that there's maybe enough water to do the existing zoning. If you don't get some wildcat industrial use in there that uses a lot of water. So the industrial, I think, is an issue. And the issue was brought up about garage services. You know, Willie Courtney has a garage auto repair facility in conjunction with his gas station there. He doesn't make a lot of money. He really does it as a community service. In Empire, there's another gas station. I think they have 2 pumps available, and there's a garage facility there with a lift, et cetera. And over the last 10 or 15 years, there's probably been 15 different operators in there. They can't make any money. So what good would it do to create more zoning that someone could come in and build a garage when you have a vacant garage facility right there, almost fully equipped, that no one will come in and operate? You cannot beat the market. The market's going to control. No matter what you do, you're not going to force the market to do something it doesn't want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have no further public comment in chambers or via Zoom.
Okay, well then that's it. We are adjourned.